Welcome everybody back to the X Factor Sports Talk. We're not stars, we're not superstars. We are X Factors, baby. We are changing the game. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Kayla Wilson, Troy Coomer. I'm Fred Weiser. Boys, how we doing?
Doing great, man. How are you, Caleb?
It's a cold one out here in these streets.
Yes, sir. It is. It's cold. It's snowy. It's icy.
It's icy like D-Lo's veins, baby. Icy like D-Lo's veins.
Do what you can to stay inside. But we wanted to get on here, man. There's a lot of rumors going around today with Andre Drummond no longer playing with the Cavs. Then you got Blake Griffin no longer going to play any games with the Detroit Pistons. You got a lot of rumors swirling, and the trade deadline is just a few weeks away. It's really probably about a month away, but it's getting closer and closer. So I wanted to get on here, and we're going to do 3 trade types. Obviously, we are going to just dive into it. One is a lower tier trade, and it's for like a team that's hovering close to the playoffs that could make this move to kind of either shore up their chance or to jump ship and get out of town with a couple picks. Your mid-tier trade to try to get a playoff team to push towards contender level, not necessarily a contender. And then we got the contender trade where we want a team to try to take themselves from being okay, solid team to we're contending for a championship now. And so I'm really excited about this. How are you guys doing? You ready to roll?
I've got several trades lined up, so I'm ready for sure.
I've been in the kitchen cooking some stuff up.
All right, so let's go straight over to Caleb. You said you got a couple of trades lined up, so let's just roll right in. Let's start with our low tier.
So,
what is a low tier trade that you got?
When you said low tier, I kind of took it like not a big name moving to a contender to help them out. So I've got 2 trades lined up, and they're both actually for the Boston Celtics. So for the Celtics, right now they're struggling. They're 500 right now. And I think what they really need is a guy that can come off their bench and to provide like really valuable minutes instead of like Javonte Green or like I like Semi Ojeleye, but he's inconsistent at times. Like they have inconsistent pieces. So I have my first one for the Celtics is Harrison Barnes actually going over to the Celtics for Semi Ojeleye, Robert Williams III, Javonte Green, and some picks. You can throw in however many first and seconds you want. It doesn't matter. But I think ultimately, I don't know if the Kings would do this because they're on a hot streak right now. Like they're starting to find their groove a little bit. But I think if the Celtics could pull this off, bring in Harrison Barnes, a guy that like can spread the floor, a guy that you can trust on the defensive end as well, and that has that championship caliber. I think he could help that franchise a whole lot. I mean, I don't know what you guys about it. I kind of like it though.
I agree. Yeah. I think it's important to have a guy off the bench like that.
Yeah, and the Celtics are in a weird spot, man. They're kind of they're a good team, but are they great? Are they even, a contender in the East? They're on a little bit of a down spiral. Tatum's struggling. Jaylen Brown's struggling. Kemba is really struggling. And getting a guy like Harrison Barnes who has that championship pedigree. And, I mean, you didn't have them giving up Tristan Thompson either, who's another championship guy that they have. And, it's interesting because maybe some people would think that the Celtics need to go out and get a big because, they don't really have that top tier big. And maybe Fred, by the way, it looks out of it, maybe he has that trade for them. But I like that trade. So pretty much the Celtics get Harrison Barnes for a slew of younger players. Semi Ojeleye, did you say Robert Williams?
Robert Williams and
picks
Javonte Green, and a couple picks.
Yeah, I think it would take maybe a first, and if not, maybe a few seconds. Just throw in a few seconds.
I don't like to throw in pick. Like for me specifically, like when I'm doing these, I don't throw in picks because it's kind of just like you never know how teams are going to go about picks. Yeah. But it's like I know that there's going to be picks in this trade, so it's like
and if the Kings are willing to move Barnes, I think that they're going to want some sort of pick compensation back because that's them kind of because Harrison Barnes is a rotational tough player for them. That's kind of them saying we may be going a different route just for this season. So that's an interesting one right there. And I really like that. Did you have another one that you would consider lower tier or are we hopping over to Fred?
I do. I mean, if Fred wants to go ahead and give his, I can give mine afterwards. It don't matter to me.
I have 2 as well. So go ahead and give yours and I'll give mine 2.
Okay. Also for the Celtics, we mentioned a big, so I have them giving up Robert Williams again and Romeo Langford with some picks to Chicago for Thaddeus Young. I think Thaddeus Young could be very valuable for them. And he's a guy that he could be a small ball five. He can also play. I think he could play alongside either one of their big men of Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson. And I just think he's a guy that you can trust out there defensively. He can scrap, he can run around, he can play make, and he can score it when needed to. And he won't be needed to score as much when you're playing alongside those two stars. So I think a veteran presence like that, who has been playing pretty well this season in a market like Chicago where he's not going to get anywhere, I don't see why it wouldn't happen, honestly.
Yeah, and that's a very realistic one, I would say, because the Bulls could be nearing towards selling closer than they would be to buy. So that one makes a lot of sense there. And so Fred,
yes, sir.
Take control, brother.
Actually, I'll move one of my trades to the mid tier, but so I have one lower tier.
Okay.
I have the Celtics. It's a trade between the Celtics and the Kings, just like Caleb, but a little different route. I went the Celtics, sending the Kings Daniel Tice, Carson Edwards, and a first for Rashawn Holmes.
Daniel Tice, who?
Carson Edwards and a first round pick for Rashawn Holmes.
This is another one I think could.
It's so hard with the Kings because it's like I said, they're on a hot streak, and they want to buy. They really want to buy in. De'Aaron Fox wants to buy in. They all do. So it's like, do they really give up a valuable piece like a Harrison Barnes or Rashad Holmes? Like, that's hard.
Yeah, I think they got to look at themselves in the mirror, especially when we get closer to trade deadline, like right up to the day, and be like, okay, are we keeping or are we going to sell for the rest?
And I really don't know. I don't know if I'm the Celtics, if I'd rather give up Tice or Thompson, because it's like Tice can spread the floor way better than Thompson. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just don't know what they value at that point, because like, if you're going to bring in a true center like Holmes, you obviously have to give up one of those big men. And it's like, I feel like at that point you give up Thompson instead. But I mean, either way, I don't think it's a terrible trade.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics are kind of. I mean, Holmes has produced pretty well this year, but you're still kind of making that trade off his potential too.
Yeah, he's only 27. He's not old per se. And if there's one thing I can kind of tell the Celtics, and you're gonna see they're involved in two of my trades that I have. They're involved in one of my.
I still have them like two more.
They're involved in my mid one and my major one, because they need to be aggressive. They have no reason not to be. Their star Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are as ready as they're going to be. Yes, they're young, but they're a veteran young, if that makes any sense. They've been there. They've been to big games. They've
got a lot of games under their belt.
Yeah, and they've played in huge moments with packed fans. Like, it's not even like they just played in the bubble with no fans. Like, they've played in packed arenas, game sevens against LeBron and the Cavs. And so I think it's no better time than now for the Celtics. And I think we're really going to push that point home with this video, because I think we're all going to have some.
And there's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of buzz with NBA insiders that cover the Celtics or Celtics fans that they really expect the Celtics to do something here really soon.
Danny Ainge is a very aggressive GM.
I think he's vocally he acts aggressive, and then like his aggression kind of, and then he pulls back a little bit.
He's smart. He's smart. He goes
with a backup plans. But there's only so many times you can be like, well, we're going to save these draft picks for the future, because the future's now. You have your
look at their success in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, they got Brown and Tatum, and then
they got a sleeper in Pritchard, it looks like.
But their free agent and such signings and things have not panned out. Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Kemba. And Tristan Thompson hasn't looked great. Al Horford, Jeff Teague has looked awful. Like, there's some signings there, and I was really excited about Jeff Teague. But
you were.
I was. I thought he was going to be a solid piece for them.
Well, you had every right to be excited. I mean, that's Jeff Teague.
Jeff Teague's tough. He's a tough guard. But for my lower tier trade, I actually went with a 3-team trade, and I went away from the Celtics. I went with the 3 teams are the Wizards, the Rockets, and the Cavs. And the Wizards would trade Rui Hachimura, Davis Bertans, a first and 2 seconds to the Rockets for Victor Oladipo. and they would also trade Mo Wagner and a second to the Cavs for JaVale McGee. So overall, the Wizards would get Oladipo and McGee. The Rockets would get Rui, Davis Bertans, a first and 2 seconds, and then the Cavs would get a young big in Wagner and a second. And in my mid tier, they're also in my mid tier, so that's why they get Wagner there. My reasoning: the Rockets get a first, some seconds, and they grab a solid young guy who has had a pretty subpar year in Rui Hachimura. If there's any way they could get Denny Avendija instead of Rui, I would jump all over it. If I were them,
that'd be tough.
I mean, it would be a lot tougher, and then they start to gain some draft capital back from their explosive deals to get Westbrook in. And it really just gets off because I've been saying it all along. Victor Oladipo will be moved. And I think why the Wizards do this, they try to compete with Beal and Westbrook for this 1 year.
Yeah.
Oladipo is a 1-year deal, and they bring in some defense with Oladipo and McGee. They shore up a little bit on the inside with Lopez and McGee. It's not who you really want to have, but I mean, they do the best with what they can do here. And they bring in some defense.
My only thing with this trade is if like Hachimura is a power forward that could spread the floor more than like JaVale. Like if you have JaVale McGee and Lopez, like that those are two like solid rim protecting centers. But who's your 4 at that point? You know what I mean?
I would. They would have to run
also
small,
giving up Bertans.
or they would have to either sign somebody in the buyout market, or just run Denny Avendija at the 4 and run a little small ball with a bigger center to really space it. Because like the roster I have them, it's Westbrook, Beal, Oladipo, Denny Avendija, and then JaVale. And then off the bench, they got Troy Brown Jr., Alex Len, Ish Smith, and Robin Lopez. But they would probably have to do something with guards. And then the Cavs, they're just in the market right now to gain some young players and a pick. And I think it makes a little
That's the kind of trade where it's like if the Wizards really do that, it's because in the back of their mind they know they're moving. They have another secure spot with like a buyout or something like that. So it's like, I mean, I don't hate it because I really was like looking to try to find something for the Wizards because it's like they're going to want to compete this year. I've said that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, So, I mean, if that's a trade, like I said, where if they do that, they know, okay, now we're picking up like a Trevor Ariza or someone like that. Like we know we're also getting this guy.
PJ Tucker, somebody.
I mean, it's not a bad trade.
Like something along those lines. I just think, again, and they shed what Caleb has called the worst contract in the NBA. They shed Davis Bertans by giving up a couple picks.
Oh, it's so bad.
They're going to have to give up picks. And Oladipo is an expiring deal. So if things don't work out and they don't, make a little run, then they can start dealing and let Oladipo walk. They tried it and then start dealing Beal and Westbrook over the summer and then start from scratch. And then you've gained, what you tried, which is what Beal wanted you to do. And you may have failed, but at least you tried. And that's kind of where my mindset was for that deal. And I was really excited about that one. I thought really hard about that one.
Yes. I think the Rockets I like the Rockets, what they get out of that too.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for all teams involved.
I do
other than maybe the Wizards a little bit. They would have to have another deal or something lined up because I think they would have to get rid of maybe an Alex Len or a Robin Lopez or somebody like that just to try to get a power forward or a bigger small forward in there. But that's where I went there. So Caleb, let's start up with our mid tier.
For my first mid tier, I'll go. This probably should have been my lower tier, but that's a 3-team trade. And do I really think this will happen? I highly doubt it, but I think it's something that I think every team potentially wins. So it's including the Hawks, the Spurs, and the OKC Thunder. The Hawks would get Darius Bazley from the Thunder and Trey Jones from the Spurs. The Spurs would get John Collins, and then the Thunder get Bruno Fernando, Luka Samanic, and a couple first and a couple seconds. So I think if you're the Spurs, you bring in that young forward to help out with the front court with Aldridge. And I mean, he's cheap. He's on a cheap contract right now. So it's like, dude, if you can swing and get him, I don't see why you don't. I think he would bring some excitement to the Spurs. And they're already making a push. So why not bring in a guy that could help you ultimately as well? For the Hawks, Darius Baisley, like I think he slept on. Darius Baisley's not a bad prospect.
He's tough.
He has a lot of athleticism.
He's
for
a
how big
guy.
he
Like
is.
he's a guy that he's not as good as John Collins, but it's like I mean he's just as athletic, and you're going to be able to keep him for a while and not ever have to come close to spending that kind of money that you would for Collins. And then
He might fit better with Trae Young.
Yeah.
Baisley? Oh yeah, he can spread the floor a little bit better,
and he doesn't demand the ball. And I think John
doesn't
Collins wants the
demand it.
ball. So.
And then they also get Trae Young. That's kind of just a throw-in piece. I mean, he's a nice little point guard that maybe
Trey Jones.
I was about to say, I was like, whoa,
What did I say?
Trey
You
Young.
said Trae Young.
Oh, they already have Trae Young. They get Trey Jones. And then the Thunder, like they get Bruno Fernando and Lucas Samanic. Like they're two young big men that maybe can develop, but ultimately they're just going to keep stacking up picks. So
I think the Hawks would have to get picks in that deal as well, just for Collins.
Okay.
But other than that, I really don't think it's that far-fetched. Oklahoma City, I mean, the only thing that wouldn't, like with OKC, would be giving up one of their promising young guys. But maybe they see something in Isaiah Roby, who is behind Darius Baisley.
They're like he's getting a lot of minutes there.
He does get a lot of minutes, and they really like the young guy that they have. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Pokashevsky.
Yeah, Alexa Pokazevsky. They've moved him to the G League just because there's not very many minutes for him because Al Horford's playing really well. They got a few. Do what?
It's a smart move moving him to G League as well.
Yeah, let him play. And, I really like Bruno Fernando. Now, how he translates to the NBA world, probably not great, but I like him. I think he's a good guy. And then Samanic can shoot a little bit. So I actually like the trade. I think it makes some sense because, there's been rumors Collins wants out anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And then my second trade, I think mine and Fred's will probably line up. So I'm gonna pass it to him, and we'll see how it goes here.
All right, Fred, you're mid-tier.
So I have two for the mid-tier. Do y'all want the one me and Caleb want first or second?
Do that second.
Okay. So my first trade, I had some fun with this one. I got the Knicks and the Warriors. A little weird here. I got the Knicks getting Kelly Oubre, Kevon Looney, a second and a first, and the Warriors getting Julius Randle in a first.
Oh. So they get Jay Randall.
I think Julius Randle's proved he's an all-star this year. I think the Warriors come get him. I think the Knicks are still in that. I don't think they're going to want to build around Julius Randle.
Here's my thing, though. I mean, I like Randle to the Warriors would be fun.
That would be fun.
Especially with the way he's playing this year. But I think they made that Derrick Rose trade to try to buy in and try to make a playoff spot. And I think if they're wanting to make a playoff spot, they're not going to get Randle this year. Now, I agree with?
The only swap I would make would be Pascal for Looney. Give them Eric Pascal.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be more intriguing for the Knicks because he's more.
And their contracts are pretty similar, so
yeah,
that'll work. So I just wanted to have some fun with that.
That is a fun one. I never even thought of Jay Randall to the Warriors, but that would make a lot of sense. He'd be your little 5, Draymond at the 4, Clay at the 3. That'd be a little fun.
I think long term that trade would be really nice for the Warriors, and that would be the trade if the Knicks were like, okay, I don't want to build around Julius Randle. So
yeah, it gives them another
process.
Option on the wing in Oubre because it's not like RJ Barrett's all that great.
Yeah, he doesn't look good. Emmanuel Quickley's look better than him.
He struggled early on, man. He looked really good to start the year and kind of has fallen off.
Yep.
All right, so you two kind of have a similar mid-tier trade, you said?
Yep. You may take it, Caleb.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I got it's between the Hornets and the Cavs. I got the Cavaliers getting Malik Monk, Bismack Biyombo, Cody Zeller, and a first-round pick. And then the Hornets get Andre Drummond. I think Andre Drummond make that team really nice, especially with Ball and Hayward. Oof.
I had pretty much the same thing. Only difference is I swapped out Zeller and I put in Rozier because I think
I might like that one better.
I don't know though. It's tough.
Rozier has been hooping.
Yeah, he's been playing really well for him. I was gonna do Devontae Graham, but his contract's so small. But I don't think the Hornets would give up both their big men for just one big man.
Yeah.
And then it's like if you're the Cavs, you're getting another point guard and shooting guard on top of Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. So I think if you can figure out a way to make it work for both teams, Drummond to the Hornets would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
Him and LaMelo, like him and
Gordon
LaMelo,
Hayward,
Lob
man.
City, dude. Lob City. I mean, it's an interesting trade. It's like it's so tough on the Cavs perspective because it's like, do you want to just rack in a bunch of guards and like be okay with that, or like I don't know, man.
I don't think the Cavs know where they're at.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
dear
think-
NBA teams, give Drummond a chance to be your 5. Just let him be the guy.
Oh, he's proved it this year. I think he's proved
He's
it.
not old. I don't understand why. And I understand the Cavs' perspective. They got their young big and Jared Allen, and they want to roll with him. I get it. So now trade this guy and get some young guys in return.
Yeah.
And a pick.
Hey, you think their trade talks are like peaceful?
the Cavs?
Like the Cavs and Drummond? Do you think that relationship's like
Yeah,
peaceful?
yeah.
I think
Because
so.
the agent went to the Cavs and kind of had a conversation. And Drummond is remaining with the team while not playing, so he's going to still be practicing, traveling.
Yeah.
But he's just not suiting up for games.
I like that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's the way to go about it. Better than let's say Anthony Davis,
oh, it's
Huh?
handled so poorly.
James Harden.
James Harden. Yeah, like this is being handled way better. But yeah, and my mid-tier one is actually for Drummond too. So this is a nice little segue for Andre Drummond here. My 4-team trade, and again involves the Celtics, the Cavs. 4-team.
Whew.
Celtics,
How to keep
Cavs,
up? Okay.
Celtics, Cavs, Magic, Kings, or
Vucevic
the
is on the move. Smell it.
Celtics, Cavs, Magic, Kings.
Vucevic is going to the Celtics. I'm calling it.
No, Vucevic is not involved in the trade.
Ah,
Okay, so I got the Celtics are trading Semi Ojeleye in 2 seconds
Mhm.
for Nemanja Bjelica from the Kings. The Cavs trade Andre Drummond for Marvin Bagley, Corey Joseph, and a first. The Magic trade Dwayne Bacon and Terrence Ross for Jabari Parker, Hassan Whiteside, and a second. So overall, the Cavs get Marvin Bagley, Corey Joseph, and a first. The Celtics get Bjelica. The Kings get Semi Ojeleye, Dwayne Bacon, Terrence Ross, Andre Drummond in 2 seconds. The Magic get Hassan Whiteside, Jabari Parker
whoa,
in 3 to 4 seconds.
whoa.
Now, the team outlook for this trade is actually pretty cool. And again, I did a lot of research, and here's my reasoning. I'm actually going to go straight into the reasoning. The Kings are 1.5 games out of the 8 seed. Show De'Aaron Fox you want to go all in. This would prove to D Fox that
Well,
you
yeah,
are
when you
putting-
bring in 6 guys on a trade, I think that proves a
you're
lot.
pushing all your chips to the table.
Buddy's going to walk in the locker room and start shaking hands.
Hey, you get
De'Aaron.
solid bench depth with Terrence Ross, Dwayne Bacon, Semi Ojeleye, and you get the star big and Andre Drummond. Okay, you have Rashawn Holmes still on your roster to come off the bench. So your roster is looking like De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Terrence Ross, Harrison Barnes, Andre Drummond, and then off the bench, Tyrese Halliburton, Dwayne Bacon, Rashawn Holmes, and then whoever else they got. Tough.
Hey, I'm the biggest.
Couples?
You know, I love the Kings. You know, that's my.
That would be tough, and I want them to do this really, really bad. For the Cavs, you get a young power forward and Marvin Bagley with a lot to prove. Instead of bringing in guards like you guys have been saying you don't want to go all in on guards, I went with the power forward route, and you get a first. And you didn't want Drummond anyway, so you get that first and a young power forward.
Yeah.
The Celtics, you get an elite floor spacing shooter who doesn't need the ball to be good. He can space the floor out. You're just giving up second-round picks. You got to overhaul of them, get you Bjelica to stand in a corner. And then the Magic, you gain picks and guys that you could potentially move / shed after the year, and you buy into the rebuild with this move. So, yeah, again, that is another huge trade. But yeah, man, the Cavs, I think I'm done with the Cavs. So their roster would be Garland, Sexton, Isaac Okoro, Marvin Bagley, and Jared Allen. That'd be their
Oh, they
starting
are
five.
young. Holy
That would
cow.
be a young.
I like that part.
Yeah, and then off their bench, they'd have Corey Joseph, Seti Osman, Tareen Prince, Larry Nance, Mo Wagner, and then they can move Kevin Love for some picks.
Yeah,
Or
they need a vet in there, though.
good Lord, if they can move Love, I'd be very impressed. But yeah, so
Yeah, he's
that's I went all in on that one. That's another one I was really excited about.
That's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
the Kings
What?
won that trade. 100.
Oh yeah, if the Kings pull that off, the Kings like if the Kings pull that off, I mean,
Oddly enough, on the trade machine, it said that the Kings were worse and that the other three teams won the deal.
I wonder why.
It's probably because depth reasons, but even then, they have really solid depth.
Yeah,
I think that the
you
Kings,
bring in Rashawn Holmes off your bench, and you have Andre Drummond.
Halliburton, you're bringing
Yeah.
Halliburton off the
Crawford.
punch.
Go get Jamal Crawford, bro.
And they could open up some slots for some veterans. That's my 4-team mega trade. It makes the Kings again show De'Aaron Fox, because a lot of these young guys get mad in the situation because their front offices don't show any eagerness to be great. Deshaun Watson in the NFL is going through that. Anthony Davis went through that. Zach LaVine is going to eventually go through that. And so now you're getting De'Aaron like, oh, okay, like these guys ain't kidding around. And they got rid of Vlade Divac, who was a joke of a front office manager, and they're starting to weed out some players. And then you bring in Drummond, and however long Drummond's there, he only has a year left on his deal. At least you tried. It's another one where you're just trying. You're a game and a half out of the playoff spot. Make your push. What do y'all think?
I love it.
If the Kings pull that off, too, that's one of the smartest trades we've seen in a long time.
Troy, you need to get in the front office, bud.
Dude, I'm dying. I'm fiending to get
You
in the
need
front office.
who's their GM, you got to tweet at him. Like, hey,
Dude,
man.
I'm telling you, I will. These trades get me going, like just really thinking about it.
I hope the Sacramento Kings tune into the X Factor Sports Talk because we're helping you out a little bit.
Yeah, Sacktown. If you're a Sacramento Kings fan, we got a comment on our last YouTube video.
Hey, send us some merch too. We want
to talk about the Kings. And so, hey, here you go.
I got a Jason Williams jersey. I'll pull that sucker out.
Let's go. That trade's a lot again, like you said, but
make me look smart because my sleeper team this year was the Sacramento Kings. So
it would.
Yeah.
They would be a solid team, man. Like that's a team that could push for a second round entry, and it would be intriguing to see them develop, see if they re-sign Drummond and what they do with Harrison Barnes, because then they could potentially move Barnes and get some other people. And Marvin Bagley's not happy there, and you give him a fresh start in Cleveland where he can be the starting four and kind of be the focus offensively outside of Sexton. I mean,
Garland hasn't looked great. I don't think Garland's looked great.
Garland's been okay, but he's been nothing special.
Yeah.
So there we go. That was a lot of fun. And now let's do our major trade. And these, I'm assuming, are revolving more so around contenders. And I just did a big time deal. But Caleb, what is your major trade, buddy?
I got two, and then I've got one that I'm just throwing in really quick. That I just want to hear I just want to talk about it really quick. Who says no? The Cavaliers or the Celtics? Andre Drummond and Taurean Prince for Kemba Walker.
The Cavs.
The Cavs would say no.
You think?
Kemba Walker is not a hot name right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want Kemba to. I feel like that would just make Garland and Sexton not happy.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, though.
Well, then they could turn him around and trade him, turn around and get something else for him. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it was one of those where it's like,
yeah.
Okay, but I'll go. Like I said, I've got two, so I'll go my first one. I'll stick with the Celtics since we've been talking about them, and then I'll go to my last team here in a second. You've been on it for a while. Hop me onto it. Vucevic to the Celtics.
Free him.
And it's including Semi Ojeleye, Carson Edwards, Robert Williams III, Javonte Green, and several picks. I think that way for the Magic, they're like all of their core guys are hurt. So it's like legitimately Vucevic is their only player. You're getting a guy like Robert Williams, who is a young center you can develop. Semi Ojeleye, who has had some, solid playing time for a good team. And then Carson Edwards, who a young guard, and Javonte Green, who's got some playing time. So it's like you're bringing in guys that you can at least throw on the court, where you're not struggling to find bodies. And then for the Celtics, I think this takes them above. Like I think it takes them top tier.
I've been saying
Vucevic is so.
I've been saying that for months. If they get Vucevic, I told Fred in one of our earlier podcasts, I believe if they get Nikola Vucevic, they would be the best team in the NBA. And how smart I look now that they're struggling and not playing very well. I think if they add Nikola Vucevic and don't have to move Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, obviously, and they can keep some sort of Peyton Pritchard off the pine and keep, Daniel Weiss. And it's like you start really digging deep. You're like, wow, like those guys can play. And hopefully Jeff Teague will throw on a little Rondo activation mode and play better in the playoffs or something, because Jeff Teague is not as bad as he looks.
Vucevic is a guy that, like, I really think he could play alongside Tice. Like, because Tice isn't as big and he can spread the floor. They both could spread the floor. So it's like you're keeping both the big men you have now in Thompson and Tice, but you're bringing in a all-star.
Yeah, and with Vucevic, he's played on really bad teams. So, like, he's not going to come in with this big ego. He's not that kind of guy. He's okay with, being a screener for his amount of time, and then really starting to take over offensively, being a rebounder. I love Vucevic. He don't get enough love. So I love that. You freed Vucevic. And you got another one?
Yeah. Come back to me. Let's go, Fred.
All right, Fred. Major trade, brother.
I got to my favorite of the East, which is the Philadelphia 76ers making a move.
Good.
I shouldn't have gone to Fred.
Between them and the Houston Rockets, I got the 76ers getting PJ Tucker and Victor Oladipo. And I got the Rockets getting Terrence Ferguson, Danny Green, 2 seconds and 2 firsts.
Okay. And Danny Green's contract really gives the 76ers a lot of wiggle room when it comes to getting a star or a just a better valuable, like,
I have a Danny Green. I have a Danny Green associated trade here in a minute. But
and they're getting Victor.
Who'd you say the Rockets get?
The Rockets are getting Terrence
Who did you say the Rockets get?
Terrence Ferguson and Danny Green. And then a bunch of picks. 2 firsts, 2 seconds.
I think if you could throw in like a big man, like maybe like a Mike Scott, I don't see why the Rockets wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Because
I think the Rockets would do this in a heartbeat.
And then with the 76ers side, I mean, you're getting PJ and Victor, and if they don't work out, they're both on 1-year deals. You just rent them out.
Oh, yeah, the 76ers do that. I think if anybody does it in a heartbeat, it's the 76ers.
Yeah.
They should. They that should be, if you are a team that has a contract like Danny Green and you are on the brink of playoffs, or for the 76ers, I mean, this could be a title or bust move for them. And, you bring in a guy who has the ceiling of being a absolute superstar, and PJ Tucker, who's tough and can kind of, be physical next to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid won't always have to guard, the big every possession. It can give him some possessions off in the playoffs. I think that trade makes a ton of sense. PJ Tucker is a guy that I really wanted to add in some deal that I had, but I couldn't figure it out. So I love that you did that. And it makes a lot of sense. I really like that move. I don't know why GMs don't listen to our podcast.
They probably should.
I mean, listen up, guys. I mean, we are putting this thing together. Obviously, it's a lot harder than we're doing right now, but I mean, can't be that hard.
We'll make the phone calls.
Yeah. All right, Caleb, you said to go back to you.
Yeah, I have the 76ers as well. But it's involving the Raptors. Raptors are getting Danny Green, Mike Scott, Vincent Poirier, and Tyrese Maxey for Kyle Lowry. And probably some picks. Like I said, I don't throw in
Lowry.
I think the Raptors, they need another big man. Baines has not been all that they were expecting. And Siakam's not, had a great year. He's starting to pick it up a little bit. So it's like maybe Mike Scott could come in, have like a fresh start, and a Vincent Poirier who, can protect the rim a little bit for you. But ultimately, you're getting a young guard in Tyrese Maxey to play alongside Fred VanVleet, and you're also bringing back Danny Green, to be that locker room presence to, if you guys do make a playoff push, to a guy that's been there and can, keep your guys calm and whatnot. But for the 76ers, I think Kyle Lowry is a leader. Like Kyle Lowry is a dog. He's a leader. He is just another scoring option for them. Like he can get his own bucket. He can set up other guys. He's played alongside superstars.
I think that's what they need.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that benefits them so much. It has a +6 increase in wins for the 76ers.
Same with mine, too.
I think, Lowry, he's tough defensively too. And him and Seth Curry backcourt alongside Embiid and Simmons and Harris, like, dude, that's really, really tough. Really, really tough. That's all I'm
Lowry there makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I was looking at deals with him too.
I wanted to move him to the Clippers so bad, but it was like nearly impossible. That would be like a 3 or 4 team trade, and I was.
Yeah, the Clippers are in a weird spot. They don't have a lot of picks and such, but for the 76ers, if they were to get a guy like Kyle Lowry, that'd be huge. An actual leader for that team would be huge. And Kyle Lowry, man, he gets disrespected more than probably he should. But he's a pit bull, man. He sticks his nose. He snicks his nose down there. He's not afraid to fight. He's a champion.
It's because he's not flashy. He's just
scrappy.
He's scrappy. He takes charges. He does the little things that not a lot of people want to do.
Yeah. He there are rumors of him potentially getting out. And if he does leave, I want him to go to 76ers or the Clippers. That's it.
I do think the Celtics would do a Kimba swap with the Raptors. Kimba, Kyle
If
Lowry.
I were the Celtics, I would in a heartbeat.
I don't know if the Raptors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure how that would look.
Only if Kimba played well. Like he's played a little decent this year. He'd have a lot more trade capital. But
All right, well,
not big.
I guess that leads me into my third trade, my mega trade.
This is an 8-team trade.
No, I wish, because those are a lot of fun. It's a 2-team trade. I'm getting boring for this one, and it's between the Celtics and the Timberwolves. And you guys can probably guess who it's for. The Celtics trade Romeo Langford, Aaron Nesmith, Tristan Thompson, Kemba Walker, and Marcus Smart, along with picks for Karl-Anthony Towns, Jarrett Culver, Ricky Rubio, and a second. So, my reasoning. The T-Wolves gain a first while also receiving pieces to potentially flip in Kemba. You can flip Kemba. Or if they didn't want that, they can, just roll out with what they got. I wouldn't do that. And they get Smart, who is an elite defender who doesn't have to have the ball. And whenever you have a guy like Anthony Edwards that the Timberwolves really like, who needs the ball in his hands, D'Angelo Russell needs the ball in his hands, Karl-Anthony Towns fits seamlessly, whatever that word is, with the Celtics. Seamlessly. So anyway, let's look at the rosters here. With the Celtics, they would then have Ricky Rubio as their one, pass first minded one. I really like that. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Nemanja Bjelica, and Karl-Anthony Towns. While their front court may not be. Remember the trade I made earlier in the 4-team trade where they traded two?
So you're saying both of these trades
This is the universe. I told you. This is the universe I'm pulling together that they would have to. And then so they would have Bjelica and Cat. And then off their bench, they would have Peyton Pritchard, Jeff Teague, Jarrett Culver, Grant Williams, and Daniel Theis. And then for the Timberwolves, they would have D'Angelo Russell, Marcus Smart, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and Naz Reid. Naz Reid has actually been pretty solid in Cats.
But you don't have Anthony Edwards starting?
No. They bring him off the bench, I think. If they do start him, they would start him over Malik Beasley, I would assume. And then, but off their bench, they would have Kemba, Aaron Nesmith, Anthony Edwards, Jalen McDaniels, and Tristan Thompson. So they get a little more veteran-based as well as gaining picks because
I don't think they get any better, but yeah.
They don't, but they're 7-20. And
I don't think they're not really
their only
buying at this point.
They could move in order to get picks. I think that they are stuck. And for the Celtics, it solves your big man issue while also you're shedding Kemba. And you gain whenever he plays. Karl-Anthony Towns is a top tier big and could play alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown better than Kemba could have ever imagined, dreamed, or thought. And it may not be as star power driven as the Celtics may have wanted to be in terms of, they got Kemba, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, this name. You kind of refine your bench. You play your 8 guys. You play your 7-8 guys in the playoffs, and you roll with it. You let Cat, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown go out and decide your game instead of playing around with your 8 to 9 man rotations that get you nowhere. But there is my massive trade. and I really like it. I really like it for that one. What do you think, Caleb? You're over there thinking, and then Fred, what are your thoughts?
I'm not sold on it.
You're not sold.
I think if you're the Timberwolves, a market that's been struggling for God knows how long, and you're giving up the only star you've had since prime Kevin Garnett, I think you want a young piece back. And not only not getting a young piece back, they're also giving up another young piece in Jared Culver.
Culver, the Timberwolves do not like Culver. They have been.
Yeah, I'm not. I understand that. Like, he's been disappointing, but like, still, that's another young guy that maybe has some upside.
Marcus Smart isn't old.
Yeah,
Aaron
Marcus Smart's
Nesmith-
not the one.
Aaron Nesmith-
I honestly, I don't see the Celtics giving up Smart. I don't see it in any way.
They need to, in my opinion.
I don't
think
think
they
so.
want
I think
to.
They need to trade Smart and Walker in a deal this offseason or this trade deadline season. If it doesn't happen, they will be the same old Celtics every year. And what could have been, and they're wasting
I
Jason
think you
Tatum.
get Vucevic.
Huh?
Not to get Vucevic.
I think they would have to give up Marcus Smart for Vucevic. I don't see a world in which they don't have to give up Smart for Vucevic.
They'd have to give up Pritchard.
Yeah, they would have to decide, and I would honestly keep Peyton Pritchard over Marcus Smart
I agree.
because he does almost everything Smart does. He's on a rookie deal. He can shoot lights out, and he's a leader. Peyton Pritchard is one of those dogs. He's not necessarily Kyle Lowry, but he reminds me to a sense of a rookie version of Kyle Lowry.
Also, like you said, flipping Kemba and whoever from that trade they want to flip. It's like, out of all those guys you're getting, can you flip them for young pieces? I doubt it.
I mean, maybe not even a young piece. Maybe they just flip them for picks, and then they sell out to that grind. Or, who's a team that could? I mean, the Magic would be an interesting team that would buy into Kemba for a year, and you get a young guard of some sort. Maybe not Cole Anthony in particular, but you get a young guard. If Markelle Fultz wasn't hurt, I would throw his name out there. But just one of those younger pieces with a pick, and then you shed Kemba and you get a young guard along with a pick, and then you're rolling out of the cat sweepstakes with about 4 first-round picks, 2 seconds. You got Anthony Edwards, who's first overall pick last season. You got D'Angelo Russell, who's a top 4 pick, and then you start just trying to build something because what they got, and they don't even use Cat real properly anymore with the team that they have. I watched him the other night, and while it is Cat's first few games back, their offense just doesn't flow with Cat anymore. And Karl-Anthony Towns is a stud, and so I think that that trade needs to be done. But I think it's crazy, and I don't think it happens because I don't think the Timberwolves or the Celtics have.
I was about to say, I think it's the least likely of any trade we've probably done so far. But I mean, if it happens, I mean, that shakes the NBA up, and I mean, it would be fun. But
my own
I
little
don't know.
universe. The Cavs are a young gun team ready to rumble. I wish the Cavs would listen. The Kings listen. The Celtics, Danny Ainge, go do something.
And quickly, with the whole reason we really wanted to do this today was the whole Andre Drummond rumors. It's hard to. I've heard that the team most likely, in most in talks, is the Raptors. Really hard to get a trade for Drummond to the Raptors.
Yeah, because we were kind of talking off camera. The Cavs have to bring in $23 million of contracts in any Drummond deal.
So just for an example, I have one here. I have Stanley Johnson, Norman Powell, Patrick McCall, OG Anunoby, and Terrence Davis just for Drummond. That's way too much. Way too much.
Way too much. And they would have to have a third team get involved. And how open would the Raptors be to trading picks to a third team just to help them out?
Yeah.
And it would be extremely difficult for that 3-team trade to work out.
I would like Drummond on the Raptors, though. I think he helps them out a lot.
For sure.
But that's really tough, and I think that's where he's most likely to go. But I just don't know how it works out.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting, man. And the Hornets with Drummond is interesting because they got some salary that they could play with. And so, yeah, man, you guys got any kind of closing thoughts on this one?
I want to see Vucevic out of Orlando.
Save Nikola
I agree.
Vucevic and Drummond. Real quick
Yeah.
before we end, where do you guys think Blake Griffin goes? Just to give him a little.
It doesn't matter where he goes. He's not a star.
I don't think
Anymore.
he's a star, but you don't think
I feel so bad for him. So he just looks. He's like he has no bounce left. It's like actually kind of sad to watch. I mean, if he goes anywhere, it's just to add veteran presence and a basketball mind, I guess, and a guy who can stretch the floor because he's kind of like a
He's gonna be a
Walmart version of
buyout.
Kevin Love.
Ooh, he is going to be a buyout and go to a contender.
he's going to be a
I
don't
buyout.
I
he's
think-
what does he do to help that contender?
He's going to be a buyout.
He's
and
a
go
solid.
anywhere.
He's a solid big man to put on the Brooklyn Nets, for example.
Hey, does anybody make a run at his counterpart in Detroit and Jeremy Grant?
No,
No, they're not getting.
he signed there for a reason to be the offensive guy.
Okay.
Yeah, if he wanted
But I think. Go ahead.
if he wanted to be on a contender, he would have re-signed with the Nuggets for a little bit less money because they were
Yeah.
offering just about the same money.
I don't know. I wish
yeah,
Blake Griffin was the same player as he was a couple years ago, but
I
he
think
just
he can
has
still
not look good.
offer something.
Me too.
Yeah.
He can
I mean,
still
like I
offer
said,
something. a
if
team.
anything, he's a veteran presence, and he'll get you 12, 13, 14 points a game.
I legitimately
I-
think it's kind of like the Dwight Howard situation with the Lakers. I think that they bring him in, and that he gets a 1 year and then he goes and signs elsewhere. I don't think wherever Blake goes, he's there for long. I think it's a half a year.
How does he get minutes in LA though?
I mean, it's not that difficult. Our bigs, I mean, Marcus Saul probably won't play a lot come playoff time.
Oh, you want Blake to go to the Lakers?
Yeah, I think that he will go to the Lakers. That's where my gut is telling me. And I'm not one of those guys. I do say that the Lakers need to make trades, blah blah blah, blah, but they don't this year.
You think they'd have to go
if
up
they were to
Kuzma?
wave a guy like Kostas Antetokounmpo, and pick up Blake Griffin?
Yeah, but then I mean, are you running?
They'd have
I
to give
mean,
up
how,
Kuzma,
how,
right?
how often is Kuzma playing the 4 rather than the 3?
Well, now with Anthony Davis out for a few weeks, he'll probably play it a lot
Oh yeah, he is out
because
for a few
Markeith
weeks.
Morris
Oh, yeah, they
don't
got
play
him.
anymore. Off the bench, they've kind of gone to Kuz and Harrell. And if you can slide Harrell or Kuz to the 3, and then you have Blake Harrell, and then Taylor Horton.
Not a
Tucker.
great defensive backup.
I mean, it's not like we're great. I mean,
Oof, no kidding.
Harrell's not great defender. Kuz is not a bad defender. Horton Tucker's a solid defender. And if you throw and they always have LeBron or AD on the floor when it matters. So I mean, those guys will be playing with one of the best defenders in Anthony Davis and LeBron. So
Well, who would the Lakers have
I
to
mean,
give up?
I don't see why he doesn't.
they wouldn't have to go with anybody. They would just have to waive a roster spot.
Are they going to cut Blake
Just
Griffin?
just a buyout.
I thought they were going to trade
They'll
him.
buy him out.
Okay.
No, I don't think he'll
No,
get
got way too big of a contract. He's not worth his contract, and no team in the world would want to trade for it.
I think another interesting team would be like the Blazers,
Yeah,
just because they don't really.
I wanted to make a move. I wanted to make a move for like Drummond to the Blazers or Vucevic, but like with Nurkic out, it's like once he comes back, that's kind of a awkward situation.
Yeah.
I'd move on from Nurkic.
So we have any closing thoughts here? Are we all good, fellas?
All good.
Get us out of here, Fred.
All good, man. Me? That's my job. Thank you all so much for tuning into the X Factor Sports Talk. As always, joined by Troy and Caleb. Don't be a star. Don't be a superstar. Change the game. Be an X Factor. We'll see you guys next time. God bless and peace out.
Peace.